Your intense desire to win in life, financially, physically, in your fitness, in your family, to win in your faith, to have more fun than you've had before, to be more fulfilled, to have a bright and noble, wonderful future. That desire is real. But some of you have had that desire for a year, 2 years, 3 years, a decade or more, and are no closer to it now than you were when you first started. So in this video, entitled World War Me, 7 internal conflicts that keep you stuck, I'm going to show you why so many people have a hard time getting unstuck. And one of the biggest problems is, one of the biggest reasons you stay stuck, before I even get into any of these 7 reasons, one of the biggest reasons you stay stuck is because you are misattributing the reason you're stuck. And so you're thinking you're stuck because of something going on out there. But the reality is you're stuck because of something going on in here. There are 7 internal conflicts. I promise you. Yeah, I get it. You're a woman in a man's world. I get it, but that's not the reason you're stuck. I get it. You're a black man in a white man's world. I get it. Yeah, but that's not the reason you're stuck. I get it. I can't win because the establishment is against me. Maybe the establishment is against you. But that's not why you ain't winning. The reason you're not winning is because something going on inside. And before I even get into what these 7 internal conflicts are, let me help you understand something about how life works. About how what works? Life. Here's how life works. There are 2 types of factors when it comes to how things turn out in our lives. There are contributing factors, and there are determining factors. And contributing factors, for the most part, I'm going to say 95% of the time, contributing factors are all outside of us. And determining factors, 95% of the time, are inside of us. So if you're looking at something outside of you and you're concluding that that's the reason you're not winning, there's a 95% chance you're off. Now, so what I've got to do is I've got to start looking inside and finding out where this internal conflict is. Because internal conflicts, a lack of congruency is one of the reasons most people stay stuck. And there are a lot of areas. I mean, there are way more than 7, but I figured I could probably get through 7 today. Maybe I can get through at least the first one. And so here's what I've discovered. Internal conflict number 1 in World War Me is this: the conflict between desire and expectation. And I am telling you that your internal conflict between desire and expectation is robbing you of the energy to take action in the direction of your dreams. What do I mean by that? I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you an illustration on my trusty digital blackboard, and you'll understand more what I'm talking about. This absolutely blows my mind, but this is how it actually works. So inside of us, it's so interesting that it says in the book of James that a double-minded man is unstable in what? All of his ways. So internal conflicts are like really doing a job on you. Okay, so inside of us, with regard to pretty much any given thing, we have an internal tug of war between D and E. Now, D stands for desire. E stands for expectation. In fact, I just thought of something really cool. Oh, Myron, you cracked yourself up. So inside of me, there's an internal tug of war between desire and expectation. And this internal conflict that I have with desire and expectation, if I am unaware of how desire and expectation work, this could keep me stuck for decades. How? Because in the conflict with desire and expectation, I'm going to say something y'all may not love too much. Expectation always wins. When there is a conflict between desire and expectation, expectation always wins. What? Always. So if you desire to do better, but you expect to do worse, you're going to do worse. If you desire to succeed in business, but you expect to fail in business, you are going to fail in business. If you're in sales and you desire to make sales, but you expect to not make sales, you are not going to make sales. If you desire to get in shape, but you expect it not to work, you are not going to get in shape. It doesn't matter what it is. When and if desire and expectation are in conflict with each other inside of me or you or any other human being, expectation always wins. Now, that sounds almost like insurmountable, doesn't it? But it's not. Because there is something you can do. There's a way you can get desire to win. And by the way, the reason expectation always wins is because expectation is a greater superpower than desire. One of the things we know about desire from King Solomon, the wisest, wealthiest man who ever lived, he said, desire shall fail. But one thing Jesus told us about expectation is what? If you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. So expectation is your greatest superpower. Your ability to, but you have to understand that expectation is sometimes an unharnessed superpower. Kind of like The Greatest American Hero. Y'all remember that show? Some of y'all are old enough to remember the show, The Greatest American Hero. If you haven't, it's literally worth watching the theme song and just watching the show come on YouTube. Just type in Greatest American Hero intro song on YouTube and go watch it. And there's this guy, he was a teacher, and these aliens came and they left his superhero suit, and he put the superhero suit on, but the wind blew and the directions blew away, and so he had these superpowers, but he didn't know how to use them. So he could fly, but he couldn't land. Right? He always came crashing through a wall. And the song was like, believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could be so free. Believe it or not, a wing and a prayer. Believe it or not, it's just me. And so there's this song, and there's this guy that had these superpowers, and it's so much like an allegory of how life works. We're all walking through life with a superpower called expectation, but we lost the instruction. We didn't lose the instructions. We just didn't realize that the Bible is the instructions. And so we're not looking for the instructions in the instructions, so we don't find the instructions. So we're walking around with these superpowers that we don't know how to use. Okay, so expectation is a force to be reckoned with. It's one of those things that we have to learn how to use. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by that in a minute. So I said expectation always wins, right? So what you can do, if expectation and desire are in conflict, how can I get desire to win? Well, that's easy. All you have to do is take your expectation and, I know this will work. I know this, come on. It's not working. So it's not working the way I wanted it to work. Okay, so here's what I'm going to try it one more time. Because basically what you have to do is you have to recruit your expectation to pull in the same direction as your desire. Now, what does that mean? That means you have to set an intention to only expect desirable outcomes. You have to set an intention to only, see, what we do is we have these desires, and it's really fascinating we've all heard the phrase history repeats itself, right? So it's really fascinating to watch people who have desires to do better, but their desire to do better is wasted on their belief in an undesirable expectation. I see it all, like I literally see it all the time. And they literally can't get out of their own way. And so imagine, like you've heard people, they say, I'm going to try to build a business, right? I'm going to try to make this business work. I'm really trying. How's it going? How's your new entrepreneurial endeavor going? I'm really trying, right? What does trying mean? It means that my desire is in conflict with my expectation. That's what it means. Now, why do I say that? Here's why. Imagine if I woke up in the morning and I said, well, I'm going to try to go upstairs and work out and hopefully I don't fall down the steps and break my neck. I'm going to try to work out and hopefully I don't break my arm while I'm lifting. And I'm going to try to row for 15 minutes and hope I don't have a heart attack while I'm rowing. And then I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to try to eat breakfast and hope I don't choke on the food that I'm eating. And I'm going to try to drink some water and hope that I don't drown in the glass of water that I'm drinking. And then I'm going to go out to my car and I'm going to try not to slam my finger in the door. And then I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to try to go to work and hopefully none of these Florida drivers run me off the road. See, if I talk like that, what would you think about me? This is a crazy person. Right? If I put a contingency about all the negative things that could happen at the end of every little thing that I did, you would think I'm crazy. Well, is it crazier to put that contingency at the end of little things, or is it crazier to put that contingency at the end of big things? And that's what we do. So we don't do that like stuff we expect to work. Now, but that whole analogy that I just gave you paints the picture of why this happens. Because with little things, we know what those little things working out looks like. We know what it feels like. So we know how to hold in our imagination an image of it working out okay. But when it comes to something we haven't done yet, or maybe something we've, quote, attempted to do in the past, what happens is we are more familiar with how it feels when it doesn't work the way we expected it to than we are with how it feels to work the way we expected it to. Like, for me, expecting to have $100,000 a day or $1 million a day is, to me, there's nothing hard about expecting that. Like, because it's way easier for me to expect it now that I've done it so many times, I can't even remember how many times I've done it, than it would be for me to do it the first time. Doesn't mean it's impossible for me to expect it the first time. It's a lot harder to imagine something that you don't have an image of. Image being the root word of imagine. Are y'all tracking? And so one of the things we have to learn how to do is we have to learn how to do a written description of the outcomes we desire without contingencies. And then when we read those, see, people talk about affirmations. Affirmations are not magic. They're not magical incantations. But when you have an affirmation, if you write out how you expect the thing to go, and you make sure you describe an expectation that matches your desire with no contingencies, what happens is when you say that to yourself out loud, it creates faith in a space where doubt used to exist in your life. And when when you create faith in a space inside of you where doubt used to exist, it gives you the ability to take an action in faith that you could not take in doubt. Is what I'm saying making sense? Because we know that faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So when I'm telling me the same thing that God has already told me, now I'm replacing the doubt in here with a faith. By the way, Faith and doubt are both belief. Doubt is belief in the outcome I don't desire. Faith is belief in the outcome I do desire, but faith and doubt are both belief. Doubt is not the absence of belief. Doubt is belief in an unfavorable outcome. Faith is belief in the promise of the Father. Now, if we think about the word desire, right? Desire, sire, de, of or from, sire, father, of or from the Father. The word desire means of or from the Father. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Most people think that means he'll give you what you desire. I believe it means he'll give you what to desire. And when he gives you what to desire, he gives you what you desire because you desire what he desires you to desire in the first place. So there. How's that for a tongue twister? And so what happens is when I learn how in real time, in what time? In real time, to replace the anxious apprehension of the outcome I don't desire. So when I'm expecting an unfavorable outcome, I have anxiety. What's anxiety? Anxiety is wasting present energy on a future outcome that's undesirable to me. So what's happening is I'm expecting an unfavorable outcome. And so my heart starts going, my breathing gets really shallow, and my hands start sweating, and my head starts sweating. Why? I'm having a physical reaction in the present to an unfavorable outcome that I'm expecting in the future. So, future expectations can positively or negatively impact present state of feeling. And so I've got to get control over the superpower called expectation, because if I don't, I will live a defeated life in World War Me. I will not win. Okay, so I know I told you if I can get past what? Number one. Okay, now you know what I meant. Okay, so because this is one of the most important battles in World War Me. I have to learn how. So I was saying, faith is belief in the promise of the Father, desire. Doubt is belief in the promise of the fofo. The fofo. Okay, y'all looking at me crazy. Faith is belief in the desire of the foe. I should have put this one first. Fofo. What's fofo? This word fo is fake. And when we believe the fake foe, the fake enemy, more than we believe the promise of the Father, then we have anxiety. So faith is belief in the promise of the Father. Doubt is belief in the promise or the threat of the fofo. Are y'all tracking? Yes. And so what I've got to learn how to do is I've got to learn how to believe what God said more than I believe what Satan shows, more than I believe what the world system shows. I've got to have so much, I have to be so locked in on the promise that the problem does not deter my expectation of the outcome of that promise. That's a totally different way to live, y'all. Totally different way to live. But we can live that way. So I have to get to the place in my life where I only have empowered expectations. Now, how do I do that? I have to, and I'm not going to go into the teaching the passage right now, but I'll just say it. For those of you who want to study it, Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1, all the way through chapter 12, verse 4. And here's what we have to do, learn how to do in real time. Y'all ready? Here's what we have to learn how to do in real time. We have to learn how in real time to replace the anxious apprehension of the outcome we don't desire with the joyful anticipation of the outcome we do desire. Okay, I'm going to say that again. We replace the anxious apprehension. Anxious means I've got anxiety. Anxiety, wasting present energy on a future outcome that's undesirable to me. Do you understand? Worrying about something makes it happen because while you're worrying about it, while you're having anxiety about it, you're actually wasting the energy that you could have used to do something about it to make it not happen. So replacing the anxious apprehension. What's apprehension mean? Apprehension means to stop. There's a criminal on the loose, but we apprehended him. We stopped him, right? So we have to learn how to replace the anxious apprehension, the anxiety we feel inside that stops us from taking the action. We have to learn how to replace that with the joyful anticipation of the outcome we do desire. And we have to learn how to do that as soon as we feel that anxiety in our heart. We have to say, okay, this is not serving me and it's not giving me the ability to please God or serve anybody else, so I might as well replace this with something more useful. And I have to become hyper-intentional about doing that. And when I become hyper-intentional about doing that, and then I write out exactly what the feeling is that I'm going to have instead, and what I'm going to focus on instead, and I stop giving energy to outcomes I don't desire and only give energy to outcomes I do desire, everything changes. Like, everything. One of the most important things I do when I'm doing anything is to believe that the thing that I'm doing is going to do the thing I desired it to do when I started doing it. Is what I'm saying making some sense? Yes. And hopefully this will, I know I'm not the only person who's ever been in World War Me. Can I get a witness? With my people. Okay. So the first one, we made it past the first one. The first one is our desire versus our expectation. I have to make sure, if I don't make sure my expectation pulls in the same direction as my desire, I'm going to self-sabotage everything that I work on my whole life. How's that? Okay, good. Number 2. Numero dos. Okay. I'm going to do it this way. Poverty consciousness versus prosperity consciousness. And for all of you who prosperity consciousness. For all of you who are going to comment in the comments, this guy, by the way, in case you're wondering what this guy's name is, it's Myron Golden. Okay, this guy, why does this guy talk about money so much? When the people who are watching me stop being broke so much, I'll stop talking about money so much. I'm talking about money because that's the thing that's missing. That's the thing that you and your spouse got in an argument about yesterday. I don't even remember the last time my wife and I got in an argument about money. I don't know if we ever have, but if we have, it was so long ago I don't remember. Argument about money? Child, please. Money? Money. Okay. Sorry, I'm starting to feel like Allen Iverson a little bit. You talking about money? Okay. So poverty consciousness. What is poverty consciousness? Poverty consciousness is being more aware of lack than you are of abundance. What does that mean? More aware of what's not there than you are aware of what is there. That's poverty consciousness. You're more aware. Poverty consciousness is you're so hyper tuned in to what's missing that you know the price of almost everything and the value of almost nothing. And you ask the question, how much does it cost? But you never ask the question, how much is it worth? Whatever, it doesn't matter. People complain about the price of gas, but they don't leave their car parked in the driveway and walk to work. And you're saying, Myron, that's easy for you to say because no, it's easy for me to say because I'm going to put gas in my car. If I'm rich, poor, or otherwise, I'm going to put gas in my car because I don't want to walk to work. It's 13 miles. I'm going to put gas in my car anyway. So what good does crying about the price of gas? I realized something a long time ago. The time, effort, and energy that we spend complaining about the way things are, if we spent that same amount of time, effort, and energy making things better, making ourselves better, we'd have a whole lot less to complain about. Well, I wish I had. Are y'all tracking? Yeah. And so it's I don't think people understand how, like, being aware of what's lacking literally causes us to miss what's there. I talked about this before many times. Like, I'm thinking about right now how hot I am, which is causing me to not be as aware of the fact that the air conditioner is on, even though clearly it is because I can hear it. If I could feel it, that would make it even better. Okay, but my point is, like, being hyper aware of what's missing causes us to miss what's there. And so, the first temptation in the history of the world was the temptation to focus on lack. What does that even mean? No, it was Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Yeah, that's what I just said. The first temptation in the history of the world was the temptation to focus on lack. What does that mean? Well, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 and 17, it says, the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree, I'm going to write it for you so y'all don't miss it. Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. Can somebody tell me every and freely? Does that sound like lack or abundance to you? It don't get any more abundant than everything for free. Like, there's no. What are we talking about, right? Then he says, but of the tree that's in the midst of the garden. How many is the? Okay. So Adam and Eve had everything for free, but one thing. Am I missing something? Or is that how it reads? They had everything for free, but one thing. Isn't that fascinating? But Satan, the serpent, was able to get Eve's attention off of every freely and got her attention on the one thing she lacked. And that shift in attention cost them everything. The scripture says that the tree of knowledge of good and evil was in the middle of the garden. What does that tell us? They had to walk past all of their abundance to get to the thing they lacked. I have a question for you. You're watching on YouTube right now. Here's my question for you. What abundance in your life are you walking past and ignoring right now to get to the things you lack? I don't know. It seems like a fair question. If you think, well, I don't have anything. Okay, calm down. Let's don't say that now, because you could find out what not having anything feels like in a quick, fast hurry. When we're focused on what's not there, we are automatically not focused on what is there. The scripture tells a story in Genesis chapter 21 about Hagar. She's in the desert. She's got a bottle. She runs out of water. She puts her son under a shrub. She starts crying. And the angel asks a question that does not sound like an angelic question. Angel says, hey, Hagar, what you crying about? There's a woman, single mama, in the desert with a child and no water. And the angel says, Hagar, what ails you, Hagar? Hey, what are you crying? Hey, Hagar, what you crying about? That does not sound like an angelic question to me. Well, it's obvious, duh. This bottle doesn't have any water in it, duh, right? But the angel says, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. And then it says, and God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. Which tells us what about the well of water? It was already there. Go read Genesis chapter 21. It's a mind-blowing story. The well of water was already there. But she was so focused on the empty bottle, she couldn't see the full well. Here's my question for you. What empty bottle in your life are you so focused on? In your relationships, in your finances, in your health? What's missing in your life right now that's causing you to miss what's there? What are you so zoned in on? She's so zoned in on the emptiness of the bottle, she can't see the fullness of the well. Or we could say, because of the water welling up in her eyes, she couldn't see the well of water in front of her eyes. All I'm saying is, poverty consciousness perpetuates poverty. Do you understand? The reason people attempt to take advantage of other people is because they perceive they're lacking something that they think they deserve. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of poor people suffer from what I call victim, villain, savior complex. They start out victim, villain. Victim. I'm a victim. I've been done wrong, so I'm going to go take this thing that I should have by now. I'm entitled to this. So they get an entitlement mentality, and they say, I'm going to go. And so what they do is they become, a Robin Hood, right. A robbing hood. Okay, anyway. Okay, and then they want to save other people from this victimhood that they're aware of. And so what they do is they start fighting against the establishment. If I'm going to fight a war, I'm going to fight a war I can win. I'm going to fight a war that matters. I'm going to fight a war that when I win, it matters. Yeah. So here's a war that I'm not going to fight ever. I'm not going to fight a war to change you. I have a hard enough time changing me. They shouldn't be that way. They are that. I don't have shoulds for other people. I don't have time. I'm not going to shouldn't you. Should or shouldn't you. I don't have any shoulds or shouldn'ts for you. Do you, boo? I don't have time to have a should for you. Why? Because it's a waste of time, effort, and energy. I don't even have shoulds for me. I just do's and don't do's. I'm going to either do it or I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to have, I should work out. No, I'm going to work out. Or I ain't. I should eat. No, I'm going to eat right or I ain't. We ain't shouldn't up in here. We ain't doing it. You say, what are you saying, Myron? I'm saying focus on the abundance. Like you could wake up every morning. Do you know how much this would change your life? What if you woke up every morning and you just realized that everybody who went to bed last night didn't wake up this morning? Wouldn't that change how you wake up? Talk about an attitude of gratitude. No, last night. What's today's date? 17th. The 16th, somebody went to bed. The 17th, they didn't wake up. A whole bunch of people around the world went to bed last night, did not wake up this morning. You waking up with an attitude? You open your eyes. Hey, you open your eyes and you can see. And you got an attitude. There are people who have never seen anything in their life, who've been alive for decades and have never seen anything in their life. And you're going to open your eyes. Got enough nerve to open your God-given eyes that are blessed with sight and got the nerve to have an attitude. Child, please. And then you want other people to feel sorry. But I ain't joining your pity party, baby. You can see. Hey, guess what I know about you? You know how to make yourself look, but you don't know how to make yourself see. That'll change the whole thing, won't it? I've opened so many. I have not even gotten out of bed yet, and I'm opening gifts galore. No wonder the scripture says, blessed be the Lord who daily loadeth me with benefits. But sometimes we forget to count those blessings. And I stand up and my legs can hold me. And I go down and my arms work and my ears work. And I have a house to live in. I didn't sleep under a bridge last night. And even if I did sleep under a bridge last night and I woke up this morning, I still got some blessings to count. I'm just saying our awareness of what's missing is costing us what we could have had by now if we had only been grateful for what we've already had so far. Okay. Poverty consciousness. There's so, like, Myron, are you one of those prosperity gospel preachers? Depends on what you mean by that. If you mean biblical prosperity, yes. Whatsoever you, like the man that delights in the law of the Lord from Psalm 1, and whatsoever you do, it shall prosper. Yeah, I'm that kind of biblical prosperity preacher. But if you're talking about one of those preachers that sells blessings to people and say, you give me money, God's going to bless you, I don't have any blessings for sale. If you give me money, God might bless you. Then again, maybe not. I don't know. If you want to test it, I'm open for the test. I'm just saying. Fortunately for me, I don't need to ask people for money. I don't need to ask churches for money. I'm going to speak at a church in Scottsdale on the 30th. And when a church wants me to come speak, I don't care if it's locally, I don't care if it's across the country, I don't care if it's across the world. No, you don't have to pay me anything. If you want to give some money to my nonprofit, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Like, what are your requirements? Well, you do have to pay for me to get there. And you have to pay for me while I'm there. But you don't have to pay for me. But I don't have to come either. I'm like I'm not looking for some place to go. I like home. Okay, so poverty consciousness versus prosperity consciousness. Like, I'm not going to join into somebody's poverty consciousness pity party to make them feel good about the fact that they haven't thought about these things before. Okay. Now, if you want to say, yeah, but everything's so expensive, well, if that's what you choose to believe, more power to you. How about this? It costs what it costs. And God gave me creativity that's greater than the cost of anything that he ever intends for me to buy. Say, wait, what? Okay. So we have some more internal conflicts. I got 7. I've only done 2. Let's do another one. This is one of my favorites. Consumption versus production. We live in a marketing world. The marketing messages are a deluge. They are a flood. They come at us from every direction into all of our senses. And they are saying, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my... I am not judging those people because I have some of those messages out there my own self. Hashtag just say it. I'm just like, but we have to have some level of self-restraint when it comes to consumption versus production. Like, hopefully in my life, I am a prosumer. What is a prosumer? A producer that consumes. Hopefully I'm never just a consumer. And nobody's ever just a producer. Because, like, life requires that you consume. But here's the beauty. If you can think of your life like your vocation in life as a gardener. Because a garden is God's ideal environment for man. And if you can stop thinking about the so-called economy as a pie that has pieces, and you start thinking about the so-called economy, you say, why do you say so-called economy? Because everybody has their own economy. You have yours, I have mine, your next door neighbor has theirs, people down the street have theirs. Everybody has their own economy. So what if you started thinking about the so-called economy, instead of thinking of it like a pie, think of it like a garden? What's the difference? Well, in a bakery, See, when God created man, he didn't put him in a bakery, he put him in a garden. Why didn't he put him in a bakery? Because in a bakery, consumption creates lack. If you have a pie and somebody eats a piece of pie, there's one less piece of pie. And so either you're going to get a piece or I'm going to get a piece. And I want to get my piece before you get your piece. And I want the big piece. And you can have a little piece. In fact, I'll take 2 pieces. Right? And that's how we think of the economy. So in order for me to get some, somebody else has to get none or less. And that's how people think economically. But that's not how gardens work. Gardens work like this. Consumption creates the potential for production. If I eat an apple, yeah, we have 1 less apple, but we have 6 more seeds. And with 6 more seeds, we don't just grow another apple. We grow 6 more trees. So in God's economy, consumption creates potential production. So here's my question for you. Like, are you aware of the fact that somebody else doesn't have to lose in order for you to win? Because if you're not aware of that while you're out here in the workaday world, you're always going to live in struggle mode. And you're going to stay stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck, being a prisoner of war in World War Me. How many of y'all tracking? Wave at me, my people. And so what we have to do is we have to realize that I have to be a producer, and I have to realize, like people say, yeah, but there's so much, the space is so competitive. Well, the space is competitive if all you're doing is attempting to fill up space in the space. But if you're on your assignment, you have no competition. You never have and you never will. People say, but Myron, I'm thinking about starting a business in this, but there's so many other people doing that. What does that have to do with anything? There are a whole bunch of people who teach things that are relatively similar to the things that I teach relatively. Now they might be thinking about me, but I ain't thinking about them. Why? Because I'm the only person who's ever lived in the history of the world that can fulfill my assignment. Nobody else can fulfill my assignment. I have no competition. I don't need for somebody else to lose in order for me to win. Sometimes I've had in the past. I don't really talk to potential clients right now, but I've had people say to me, "Hey, Myron, I'm thinking about joining your coaching program. I'm thinking about joining somebody else. How do I know which one to join?" It's easy. Join theirs. That's always my answer. It's always the same. Easy. Join theirs. What do you mean join theirs? Don't you want to talk me into joining yours? Nope. If I got to drag you in, I got to drag you around it, and I ain't interested. And so I know there's more. See, I believe in the law of infinite abundance. Here's how the law of infinite abundance works. There's more than enough for everybody to have more than enough, and there'd still be more than enough left over. I'm not hoping to get mine before you get yours. Because I know if you get yours before I get mine, I'm still going to get mine because mine ain't yours and yours ain't mine. Ain't God good? It ain't life fun. Hey, if I did this, I'm going to do something. I want y'all to ask me what I'm doing. Everybody ask me what I'm doing. You ready? I'm holding my breath. Ask me why. I don't want to breathe too much air. There might not be enough left over for everybody else. That's crazy. But there are people who literally believe, I don't want to make too much money because I'm not that greedy and there might not be that much left over for everybody else. Money is like oxygen. What do you mean? Well, you got to have it in order to stay alive. And when you don't have enough of it, it feels like you can't breathe. Which one? Money or oxygen? Right? And so the idea that I'm going to hold my breath so that other people have more air to breathe is ridiculous. But the idea that I'm going to restrict how much money I make because there might not be enough left over for everybody else is such a ludicrously insane idea. Is what I'm saying making sense? Okay. So poverty consciousness versus prosperity consciousness. Okay. If you all would listen faster, I promise I could talk faster. Okay. Sometimes you find yourself in conflict when it comes to your ambition versus your integrity. But you don't have to be in conflict with that. But a lot of people are. Why? Because we have three internal enemies. One's called the world, the other one's called the flesh, the other one's called the devil. And so the world tempts us in our ambitions. When I say ambition, I mean my desire to be somebody. My desire, when I say to be somebody, my desire for you to think I'm somebody. Right? But like if I desire to have something so much, I'm willing to lose integrity to get it. I shouldn't have it. I don't have any desire. What if we could all adapt and adopt the belief? You ready? If it is supposed to be mine, it will be mine and no one can keep it from me. If it's not supposed to be mine, nobody could get it to me, and if they could, I have no desire for it anyhow. What if I operated from that place? Oh, now integrity never comes into conflict with my ambition. See, I can have ambition and integrity at the same time. I can have a desire for more. By the way, my desire for more, your desire for more of what? Whatever is good. It could be money, it could be health, it could be vacations, it could be better relationship. Your desire for more and better is a gift from God. God gave you the desire for more. Say, Myron, but what about covetousness? Covetousness is a desire for something that you have no willingness to do the right thing in order to have it. So if I desire money without work, without earning it, now that's covetousness. If I desire my wife, here's what that's called, marriage. If I desire somebody else's wife, that's called covetousness, because I have no right. So covetousness has to do with your willingness to do the right thing in order to have the thing you desire. Is what I'm saying making sense? And so what I've got to do is I've got to make sure that my desire is not in conflict, or my ambition is not in conflict with my integrity by just trusting the sovereignty of God. It's so simple. Wouldn't it be awesome if simple meant the same thing as easy? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Right? But it doesn't. Okay, so the next one is when it comes to the enemy called the flesh. And that is our appetites. When our appetites are in conflict with our self-control. See, the world tempts us in our ambitions, but the flesh tempts us in our appetites. And our appetites are our desire to feel something. Like our appetites, my hunger appetite is my desire to feel satiated, right? Anything that I desire to feel is a flesh appetite. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with eating food. There's nothing wrong with eating food. Eating food is not a sin, unless you eat so much food that it's not good for you. Now it's become a sin. When you're eating too much and moving too little, now we got a problem, boys and girls. It seems like an oversimplification. My desire to eat good food is God-given. My desire to satisfy my thirst is God-given. Sexual desires are God-given gifts. Satisfying them outside of marriage is when you let your appetite overrule your self-control. Yeah, there's a, like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. Me staying in the bed this morning past 5 o'clock, instead of getting up and going upstairs and getting on that rowing machine, right? Instead of doing that, instead of getting on my tonal, like if me staying in bed would have felt so much better. In fact, there was nothing about working out that felt good while I was doing it. But I feel good for the rest of the day. Isn't it interesting when we win World War Me, it usually is the result of sacrificing some level of short-term pleasure on the altar of some form of long-term gain. But when I do it the other way around and I sacrifice the long-term on the altar of the short-term, because I want to feel something, or because I want to have something, or because I want people to think something about me, and so I sacrifice the right thing on the altar of that, what happens is now I end up paying for it sometimes for years and sometimes for decades to come. Okay. Self-control. And then entitlement versus responsibility. Unfortunately, in the United States of America, we have a lot of children in adult bodies who were raised by children in adult bodies. And it's fascinating to me that parents don't understand the purpose of parenthood. The purpose of being a parent is not to be the friend of your child. I mean, if that happens, that's nice. That's a nice bonus. But it ain't the objective, boys and girls. What is the objective of parenting? The objective of parenting is to turn an irresponsible, out of control, self-willed, selfish child human into a responsible, gratification delaying, disciplined, self-controlled adult. Now, how can you tell the difference between a child in an adult body and a real adult? An adult is responsible. A child in an adult body is reactionary. Children in adult bodies react to everything and respond to nothing. Adults respond to almost everything and react to almost nothing. A reaction is just, I'm going to do the thing that I feel like doing right now because that's what I feel like doing. Whether it be, I'm angry right now, so I'm going to dim it. People are crazy. People are crazy. I saw a dude on the subway in New York yesterday hitting people with an umbrella. People are crazy. Ain't no universe in any galaxy that's ever existed. I want to live in a state where I can't protect myself from crazy people. Anyway, hashtag just saying. Y'all gonna let that mean whatever it means. But people are out of control, and they feel like, well, I feel like doing this, so I'm gonna do it. That's insane. Like you're throwing a temper tantrum at 35 years old, where people get hurt. Sometimes people get killed. Now, here's the interesting thing about the word responsibility. Responsible. Responsibility means to respond with ability. The reason children in adult bodies are not responsible is because nobody ever gave them the abilities to respond like an adult. Or their parents didn't train them. By the way, if you don't train a child when they're small, you can't teach them when they're a little bigger. I believe that ages 1 through 4, we're supposed to train them. What's train mean? The purpose of training is to get them to respond appropriately to authority. What's the proper response to authority? Immediately and completely. And without question. I don't explain things to my 1-year-old, my 2-year-old, my 3-year-old, my 4-year-old. They don't deserve an explanation. They deserve a response. They respond. Do what I told you to do. Why? Because I said so. After 4, because I said so, is probably not a good idea anymore. 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, that's when we start teaching them the reasons behind the rules that we created when they were 1 through 4. And you teach them. And when they say why, you explain to them why. Why? So that they will have an understanding of how life works in here when you're not around. Are you tracking? This is how you create responsible adults. And then, 9, 10, 11, 12, you transition them. What does that mean? Now you're giving them the ability to make decisions supervised by you. And you let them decide when they go to the grocery store with you, and they pick out the food. And when they go home, they cook it with your supervision. And they make the meals for the family, and they plan the meals for the family, and they learn how to pay the bills, and they learn how to write checks, and they learn how to develop credit. Why? Because you're teaching them how to become a responsible adult. 9, 10, 11, and 12, they can understand all that 9, 10, 11, 12. And then in the 13, you can trust them for the rest of their lives. Kind of like Hebrews do over in Israel. Like, you're 13, you're an adult now. Why? Because they were trained to be adults. It doesn't just happen vicariously. It doesn't happen by wishful thinking. And so what happens is we have to get to the place where our self-control is so much stronger than our appetites. And it's so interesting. I was sharing with some folks yesterday. I don't have time. So I don't have time to go into that story. It'll take too long. Maybe I'll do a Bible study on it. In fact, I'm sure I will. Okay, so entitlement versus responsibility. Do you understand? People who are responsible say, this is going to work because I'm going to make it work. People who feel like entitled, well, you're doing better, so since you're doing better, like, you should share that with me. We live in an entitled world. Well, the government should take care of people. The purpose of the government is not to take care of people. The purpose of the government is to protect and serve, period. Not protect, serve, and provide. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's generally not a good idea because the government doesn't produce anything other than debt. And the more power you give them, the more power they take. Anyway, another conversation for a different day. Okay, this is the last one. Anger, bitterness, whatever you want to call it, versus gratitude. You know what? Here's what I found out. It's kind of hard to be grateful and angry at the same time. Those are two very difficult things to hold at the same time. And so what I'm going to recommend that we do is let's go through life grateful. We're coming into the so-called Thanksgiving season. Why can't every season be Thanksgiving season? We've got so much to be thankful for. Yeah, I know everything's not working out. Everything ain't turning up roses, but everything ain't turning up thorns either. Here's what I've discovered about focus. Focus has two sides. Everything that we focus on has two sides, a positive side and a negative side. If I focus on the positive aspect of the fact, I get more positivity in my life. If I focus on the negative aspect of the facts, I get more negativity in my life. I can't speak for you, but I like having more positivity in my life. We just moved into our new house this weekend. The house is not done. The plumber's there today, hopefully hooking up all the rest of the appliances that didn't get hooked up, having some water in the kitchen sink, having the washer and dryer hooked up, having the dishwasher hooked up, stuff that we think we need. Having hot water, right? It's inconvenient. Oh, that's terrible. You had to move into your... Terrible.